Labor Department finds jobs numbers came in far better than expected, adding about 172,000 positions in the month of May. A 3-judge panel in Virginia heard arguments today in the case of President Trump's planned ballroom at the White House. ABC's Karen Travers.
The Justice Department has been pointing to the recent shootings, the one that was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the shooting that was here near the White House just a couple of weeks ago, to say that there is a security issue and that it's not just about trying to build an event space at the White House, but that this facility will also have a national security impact, talking about things like medical facilities, the bomb shelters, a hospital, as the president has talked about, as well as things built on top to secure this entire complex here at the White House.
A federal judge has thrown out several Trump administration policies which had halted asylum claims from around the world. This is ABC News. No breakthrough yet between the U.S. and Iran. ABC's Tom Soufi-Burrage in Israel says the U.S. has boarded a tanker vessel that it says was not flagged properly under international maritime law.
They say it was being used by Iran to move sanctioned oil around the globe. Now, we have seen similar incidents in that part of the world over the last few weeks. The U.S. has not only been enforcing its own U.S. military blockade on Iranian ports in the Arabian Sea, but also intercepting a number of these oil tankers, which it says is part of Iran's so-called shadow fleet to move around its oil, contrary to U.S. sanctions. So it's about upping the pressure on Iran, but of course Iran still has control of the Strait of Hormuz.
Karen Reed has filed a new lawsuit against 2 Massachusetts police departments and 2 former officers, accusing them of leading a corrupt investigation against her. It comes almost a year after Reed was acquitted in the death of her boyfriend, a Boston police officer. I'm Mike Dubosky, ABC News.
Police on the east side say they've cuffed an accused human trafficker, and he's only 21 years old. We're going to get details on that, but first we go to Lori with KIRO News Radio real-time traffic.
Traffic is brought to you by the Seattle Mariners. Northbound on 599, the off-ramp to Tukwila, we've got some trees falling on the ramp, partly blocking. Reports of a collision west Marginal Way at South Holden Street, North 5 in DuPont. That collision has reblocked and is slowing you as you head past the scene. Seattle to Federal Way, about a minute delay. Linwood to Seattle, a 20-minute drive, and a 2-minute slowdown. Linwood to Bellevue at 22 minutes. If you're heading to Issaquah from Bellevue, expect a 5-minute slowdown. Eastbound at 520, slows approaching the bridge deck, and we have the high wind warning on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Don't miss fireworks nights and summer long presented by T-Mobile. The next show is June 19th. Get your tickets at mariners.com/fireworks. I'm Lori, KIRO Real-Time Traffic.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon. I'm Jillian Raftery. Bellevue police arrested a 21-year-old following a human trafficking investigation. Police say the case began last fall after a wave of complaints about large parties at a rental home in the woodsy suburban Lakemont neighborhood. Officers responded to more than 100 calls at that home, including assaults, DUIs, weapons complaints, underage drinking, and they say they even saw parents dropping off high school kids at the house. The suspect now faces possible charges, including second-degree human trafficking, leading organized crime, and money laundering. Investigators need your help to find a driver involved in a deadly hit and run along I-5 in Seattle.
Just before 1 o'clock this past Sunday morning, somebody walking along I-5 South near Mercer Street was hit by a black Honda. That driver stayed and cooperated with police, but witnesses say a second car, possibly a silver or white Kia Optima, also hit that person. Police want to speak with that driver, and anyone with information is asked to get in touch with the State Patrol.
We will.
Frank Lindsay, KIRO News Radio.
We will be posting pictures of that second car on our website, mynorthwest.com. And crews had to dump more than 2,000 gallons of water on a Tesla Cybertruck that caught fire after crashing into the center median on 167 near Pacific this morning. Incredibly, nobody was hurt. Federal investigators looking into the Longview tank disaster may lose the very agency designed to prevent future tragedies. The Chemical Safety Board, now examining the white liquor tank rupture that killed 11 workers, is facing a proposal to eliminate its funding. University of Washington professor Marty Cohen tells KIRO 7 TV.
They're not trying to lay blame and cite companies. They're trying to figure out what systematically went wrong.
A House committee has approved $14 million to keep that agency operating, but the funding still needs approval from both chambers of Congress. A homeless village in Spanaway just cleared its final legal hurdle. The News Tribune reports 3 Washington Court of Appeals judges sided with the Tacoma Rescue Mission on Tuesday. That rejects a challenge from a group called Spanaway Concerned Citizens. They have been arguing the project would hurt neighbors, wetlands, and wildlife. The Good Neighbor Village will house about 300 people who've been chronically homeless for a decade or more. It sits on 86 acres off Spanaway Loop Road, with construction wrapping up by 2028. Now we're going to check your weather forecast and get ready for a potential stormy evening. Showers, a high of 64 today, overnight lows in the mid-40s through the weekend. More showers and potential thunderstorms on Saturday. It is 62 degrees right now in downtown Seattle. I'm Jillian Raftery for KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news, serving Western Washington and the world with the KIRO News Radio App. Always streaming live on your smart speakers. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News.
And now, it's time for the Jake and Spike Show on KIRO News Radio. With your hosts, Jake Skorheim and Spike O'Neill.
Welcome to the show. Happy Friday. It's Friday. Happy Friday to you all. Jake Skorheim here, sitting alongside. Spike is not here today. He's out doing some stuff. He's unavailable. Laura is back. She's back from jury duty. Laura, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I feel so much wiser.
I bet.
And more, sort of civically involved.
The fate of a man's life was in your hands. And are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was under oath for 2 days, but now, I talked all about it yesterday. Yeah,
right.
Totally free game.
All right. I'm going to ask you more about it later on in the show.
It might even be my Friday favorite.
Oh, perfect. Your experience on the jury. Excellent.
It was most of my week, so.
All right. We're going to get into that. Many, many things today. We have a lot to discuss. One of those things we're going to be discussing is local politics. Representative Jim Walsh is going to join us in studio at 1 p.m. That's going to be a lot of fun. He's going to be here to talk about, among other things, the so-called millionaire's tax, which is actually an income tax, which everybody knows, but they call the millionaire's tax because they think it's easier to sell that way. But Bob Ferguson, governor of our state, he put out a post maybe like a week ago or so, I think, maybe almost exactly a week ago, basically challenging Jim Walsh to run against him in 2028. He says, you don't have the guts, like a third grader. And he did everything except triple dog dare him. And then Walsh responded immediately and said, hey, I'd be more than happy to have some civic debates with you, talk about some of the issues that people care about, since voters are not going to have a say unless they're able to get an initiative on the ballot in November. And crickets from Governor Grim. That's a Freudian slip. Governor Bob Waltz. Bob Ferguson, not Waltz. So Walsh is going to be on here at 1 o'clock to talk about all of that and so much more. Jason Rance is going to join us at 2 p.m. That's going to be a lot of fun. I want to start with some Katie Wilson stuff, though. Katie Wilson, I missed out on this yesterday. You guys may have covered some of this with Spike yesterday and Greg. Great job, by the way, you guys. Thank you in my absence. But Katie Wilson was at something called a Civic Cocktail, which is at the Seattle City Club. It was hosted by Fox 13 anchor Hannah Kim. And she was asked questions about many, many things. And I'm going to play you a clip of Katie Wilson talking about Starbucks. Because Katie Wilson, for better or worse, it's obviously for worse, is probably most known right now for her controversial first act as mayor, which was to start boycotting one of Seattle's not, if not most, iconically known local companies, which is Starbucks. Everybody knows Starbucks. It's synonymous with the city, or was until they now started investing in headquarters in other states for tax reasons. And the very first thing Katie Wilson did when she was elected mayor is she got up on a soapbox and went in front of a Starbucks and started protesting and saying, I'm going to protest Starbucks. Let me play you a little bit of that, and I'm going to play you this cut on Wednesday night where she had an opportunity after all of that stuff has happened now, after Starbucks has announced, hey, you know what? We're going to cut back a bunch of locations here. We're also going to invest in headquarters elsewhere. We're going to wind down our headquarters here somewhat. We're going to start selling off office space. All of these things are bad. These all happened after Katie Wilson got up on that soapbox and said this. This was her very first act as mayor. This is before she was even officially announced as mayor because there was this, she ran against Bruce Harrell. There was the count that took a few days. Bruce Harrell was up by a good margin, and then all the mail-in votes came in, and Katie Wilson picked up a ton, and she ended up winning. And Bruce Harrell calls her on the phone, concedes the race, and then before she even says anything else, she just runs straight over to this event, and this is what she had to say.
Oh my gosh, it is so amazing to be here today. You all are beautiful. Here we are. Thank you to the incredible Starbucks partners and workers who are here today and fighting across the country for a fair contract and for a union.
And then she said, no contract, no coffee.
Together we can send a powerful message. No contract, no contract.
All right, so this was literally message one, and I think probably everyone who voted for Katie Wilson could have cared less. They don't care about businesses leaving. They may not think about that, or maybe they don't even like Starbucks. That's possible. A lot of people think that they burn their coffee. That's fine. That's a fair critique. But it's not a good thing when one of the city's most consistent, longest running, and a very robust employer is now targeted by the mayor in her very first address, essentially as mayor. That was not a good look. And very quickly thereafter, Starbucks announced that they were going to be looking into, and after the income tax was passed by Ferguson and his folks and signed into law. Actually, before it even signed into law, Howard Schultz comes out and he makes that announcement. He's saying, hey, guess what? This is just within hours of them passing the bill before it was actually signed into law, but just passing the bill for the income millionaire's tax. Howard Schultz says, hey, guess what? Big news, everybody. And he never mentions the income tax bill, but that's what it was about, obviously. He says, big news, everybody. My wife and I have decided we're actually going to relocate. We're not going to live in Washington anymore. We're going to move to Florida, which is what a lot of rich people do. It's a lot friendlier tax-wise. So they go to Florida. And then shortly thereafter, his company makes the decision to start investing in new headquarters in Nashville, which is very favorable tax-wise. And the response from Katie Wilson at the time was, and this is all building to what Katie Wilson said Wednesday, and I'm giving you kind of all of this information because I'm kind of surprised at what she said Wednesday. I shouldn't be, but I am surprised by what she said Wednesday. So Starbucks announces that they want to head to Nashville. Katie Wilson then does an interview and says like, well, this has been in the works for a long time. It has nothing to do with me or the income tax. And then she gets fact-checked on that, and they're like, actually, no, this has not been in the works a long time. There's no record of Starbucks investing or investigating in Tennessee, in Nashville, in years prior. This definitely seems like it's related. So with all of this, and again, this is Katie Wilson, stop buying Starbucks.
That is why I am proud to join them on their picket line and proud to say loud and clear, I am not buying Starbucks and you should not either.
All right, so there you go with the horns and everything. So then Wednesday night, she's at this event, Seattle City Club, in front of a fairly raucous crowd. This is how Charlie Harger described this. I'm going to read you a little bit from Charlie's piece on mynorthwest.com. It's a great piece. Check it out. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson walked onto the Civic cocktail stage Wednesday night, likely expecting a friendly evening with the Seattle City Club crowd. What she got was a sustained grilling from Fox 13 Seattle anchor Hannah Kim, a rowdy audience that wouldn't stop reacting, and a night so spicy, as organizers put it, they had to remind attendees of the rules of decorum before intermission. All right, so not an area where Katie Wilson would be super comfortable. She's a very awkward person, it seems, when she's kind of speaking off the cuff. And so this is not a great situation for her. But whatever, she did it, so credit to her. But she was asked by Hannah Kim, do you support Starbucks? And she gave this answer. Listen to this, and then let's break it down a little bit.
You made national news recently for comments made about
I was going to say, don't
businesses.
ask me about the millionaire tax, Hannah.
Well, made about businesses and the rich. Let's start with Starbucks. Do you still support a boycott of Starbucks?
I had the pleasure of visiting the Pike Place Market Starbucks a little while ago, and I ordered I think it was a blueberry muffin latte. That was like a staff creation.
Yum.
So
that's
I guess I broke my boycott.
Okay.
But I don't know. What do you want me to say about that?
So you support them?
I absolutely support unions, and I support
that
workers.
question from the crowd.
Yeah.
All right, you heard that. Is that you, Laura? Who is that? Is that Andrew? Thank you. That was great. She says she definitely supports unions. That's a very easy answer. Am I wrong about this? Is this crazy? But is that not like the easiest layup of an answer? Do you support Starbucks? She's already said she's in the shop buying a blueberry muffin latte, which, by the way, I've never heard of that as an order ever. Now, Starbucks sells a lot of things, so it could just be that I've never heard of that. But that sounds objectively disgusting. But then she says, so you buying Starbucks, are you supportive of Starbucks? After all of that, after all the buildup of her saying, no contract, no coffee, stop buying Starbucks, she says, this is my hometown Starbucks. I mean, she's really drew the line in the sand.
And I would like to close with a message to Starbucks. This is your hometown and mine. Seattle's making some changes right now.
It's not her hometown, by the way. I know she lives here, but she was not born and raised here. Not that that matters, but whatever. I'm nitpicky.
And I urge you to do the right thing. Because in Seattle, when workers' rights are under attack, what do we do? When workers' rights are under attack, what do we do? Because this is your city. Thank you very much.
Burp, 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 burp. All right, so I'm going to... this is Katie Wilson one more time when asked specifically about supporting Starbucks. This is the... I did an article earlier in the week, and you guys can go check it out on My Northwest if you're interested, but I made a comparison. She's on the national stage right now in a way that she 100% does not want to be, which is strange given that she ran for the highest office in Seattle and achieved it and won it. But now we've got the World Cup, which is coming in T-minus 10 days. She's on the national stage now. I compared her on the national stage with Russell Wilson, who's another objectively awkward human being and who's going to be on the national stage again because he just signed a deal with CBS. He's going to be an analyst for them for football games. And I asked a question, who's more ready for the national stage? Who's more ready for prime time? The answer is obviously Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson is a winner. And even though he may not be good to start with, he will figure out how to get good at it. And you can trust, if you look at his resume, he was not super high drafted. He ends up coming in, winning the starting quarterback job, even though he was a rookie with the Seahawks. I mean, he just outworks people. And as much as maybe we all he fell out of the limelight or we stopped liking him because he went to another team, all the Broncos stuff aside, all the Mr. Unlimited stuff aside, Russell Wilson figures out how to win. He didn't actually when he went to Broncos and then Steelers. He stopped figuring out how to win, which is why he's not playing football anymore. But for a short time, there was a window where Russell Wilson was just crushing it. And he's rushing, and he's throwing, and he's doing everything. Eminem is putting drops about him in his songs. He had a very bright, shiny moment. I don't think Katie Wilson's going to have a bright, shiny moment. I don't know if it's in her, and I don't think her policies lead to bright, shiny moments. But this is her again. Layup question. Super simple question about Starbucks. You support Starbucks now.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do you want me to say about that?
So you
say, yes, I support Starbucks. It's like a really easy thing to say. What do you want me to say about that? Just say I support Starbucks, and obviously I want the business to do well, even if I disagree with some of their policies on unions. Maybe she could support Starbucks and unions at the same time, but she's not saying that. And now Starbucks is like, all right, whatever. We're enjoying barbecue and good music in Nashville, so peace out. All right, this was another clip. We're just going to go all Katie Wilson for this first segment here. This was another clip that she was asked about. She was asked about the housing issue in Seattle and in King County, of which she has a really big say. Right now, the King County Regional Homeless Authority, today, they're actually making their appeal to Seattle City Council about what they're going to do to try to fix their completely broken setup. They have a ton of money that they get to spend. They're $45 million in the hole. $13 million of those dollars are in the wind. They can't even say where it went, which sounds fraudulent, is a big problem. And so they're trying to convince Seattle City Council members and in turn also the mayor of Seattle to let them stay in business. Although many, many people, including on the city council, don't think that they should be staying in business. They think they should be just shut down for obvious reasons. And so Katie Wilson was asked about homelessness in Washington and in Seattle specifically, which is, obviously where she works. What causes that problem? And listen to this answer, and then you guys can let me know. 888-973-5476, Muckleshoot Casino Resort text line. Is she looking at this problem fairly? Are her eyes open to the possibility that it is not exactly what she says it is? And maybe that's why they're having a difficult time dealing with the issue? Because she blames it on something that I would not blame it on. Let me play this clip and then we can talk about it.
So, I think it's very clear when we look at the data, when we look at different cities around the country and kind of compare the scale of our homelessness issues, what is driving homelessness is housing costs. There is a very, very clear correlation between housing costs and homelessness. And that does not mean that drugs are not a factor. They absolutely are a factor, right? And especially people who have been homeless for a while, right, and struggling with substance use disorder, helping someone out of homeless is not as simple as putting a roof over their head. And that is why, as we're doing our shelter acceleration, we are being incredibly intentional about pairing shelter with services, with case management, with drug treatment, with behavioral health services, with all of the support that someone might need to get onto a better path. But it is very clear, again, that housing costs are what are driving the homelessness crisis, and drugs make everything worse. And, if you fall into homelessness, very often people become addicted to drugs once they become homeless. There are a lot of reasons for that. Or if they have, a light substance use disorder, that becomes a severe substance use disorder. So drugs are very entangled with the homelessness crisis, but the real driver is housing costs.
All right, so she's saying the real driver is housing costs. I would be interested in if she could give a percentage on what numbers she thinks are actually a result of not being able to afford an apartment in Seattle. It's very expensive to live in Seattle. That is absolutely true. There's myriad reasons for that, not the least of which is it's very difficult to build anything in Seattle. So there's a lack of housing because they just don't want to build things in Seattle. If they want to build things, they could. They do manage to do this in other places in a much faster timeline. I've written about this on mynorthwest.com. You can go find it and check it out there. Takes twice as long to build anything in Seattle because they have a whole lot of rules and regulations that are just drowning developers and stopping them before they even get it off the starting line. And so is it a contributing factor? 100%. Is it the majority reason why people are homeless? I would argue absolutely not. And I think a lot of people, like you talk to somebody like We Heart Seattle's Andrea Suarez, she would tell you the exact opposite of what Katie Wilson is saying. And she posts videos about this all the time. She texts me, we're friends, and she gives me updates on this stuff. She will go around and she will talk to people on the streets. She sent me a text the other night because she's out there doing great stuff all the time and trying to help people. And she went up to 100. She went up to like 100 people on the street, and she said, "Which one of?" And because she has connections to people with housing and facilities that can get people in quickly. She asked like 100 people, "Who wants to get off the streets tonight?" Now the caveat is you can't do drugs and alcohol in the places you're going to go. And she didn't get any takers. They wanted to stay on the streets because they didn't want the barrier of not being able to do the drugs that they're addicted to. I don't think they're there because of housing reasons, though. It's because they're addicted to the drugs, and then they fall off. They fall off the face of the planet. They end up going where they can get them, and they end up living outside, and it's horrible. But I don't think it's happening because they don't have access to houses. I don't think it's quite offensive to people who are limited in means to suggest that they just then become drug addicts living on the street. I don't think that's happening. I think most people listening probably would be yelling at the radio, listening to Katie Wilson saying that the primary driver is housing costs. And then you also have to ask yourself, like, if she was right, even in the scenario where she might be right, which again, I don't believe she is, and the numbers certainly don't back that up. Who's responsible for the high housing costs in Seattle? It would be city leadership and the barriers to building things. So she has a direct ability to, speed that process up, and I would highly urge her to do so if she believes that's a real problem. All right, we got a lot more coming up. When we come back, I got to get to this because this is really interesting. I took a deep dive. There's a new company, not a new company, but there's a company who wants to start a data center. Like data centers are like this big controversial issue. It's like a real hot button, zeitgeisty issue. I didn't know much about data centers, but I've done a deep dive into data centers. And also, I think modern data centers are becoming what nuclear facilities became in the 1970s, which were very unpopular. But people don't really understand why they become unpopular, so I took a deep dive into that too. It is fascinating. The confluence of events that led to basically no nuclear power in the United States for 30 years is kind of insane. And we're going to get into that, and then we're going to compare it to data centers and see how those things stack up. When we come back, stick around.
KIRO News Radio, winner of 7 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, including overall excellence and investigative reporting.
Just 29 hours later, Joshua Headley sent an unsolicited email to me writing, "I understand there may be a news story coming out."
Thank you who listen, stream, and watch every day. The driving force that pushes us to be the Northwest's trusted news source. KIRO News Radio, 97.3 FM.
Spike O'Neill here for Ageless Living. Recently, my aunt had surgery, and she was home the next day. But we weren't sure if we were ready or equipped to give the kind of care that she needed, so we called Ageless Living and asked about respite care. A short-term stay that provides 24/7 expert care, Ageless Living amenities, and peace of mind for you and your family. Go to agelessliving.com/spike and schedule a visit. It can be a much-needed break for a caregiver and a chance for you and your family to get a look and a taste of what Ageless Living offers. That's agelessliving.com/spike.
Healthcare costs are rising, and a major driver is hospital prices. They've increased more than 250% over the past 25 years. Families and local businesses are feeling it. At Primera Blue Cross, we're working to change that by negotiating with hospitals to secure fair, responsible prices so you can get the care you need at a cost you can afford. That's coverage that counts. Learn more at coveragethatcounts.primera.com.
Are you a homeowner, 62 or older, and realize that your Social Security and other income may not carry you through your retirement years? Have you ever thought about a reverse mortgage? Hey, Brock Hewitt here for my friends at Tila Mortgage, a local company serving Washington residents for 30 years. And if you want to know how a reverse mortgage works or have questions like, are reverse mortgages safe? Will I still own my home? Or do I really have the option of not making monthly mortgage payments? Call Tila for a no-pressure conversation. They'll answer your questions with personalized recommendations and loan options that can safely help you improve your monthly cash flow, increase your available income, pay off debt, or make home improvements. Call Tila today. Tila, spelled T-I-L-A, is a name you could trust for truthful, honest, and ethical advice for all your mortgage needs. Call 206-766-8888. That's 206-766-8888 or
Insurance and property taxes are borrower's responsibility. Tila Mortgage LLC is a mortgage broker. NMLS 2472046.
Do you notice sounds coming from your crawl space or attic, or possibly stale or foul odors in your home? This could be that rodents have gotten into your attic and crawl and have made it their home. They tear up the insulation to make nests to have babies. They contaminate it with their biological waste, which can be harmful to your health. And they ruin your home's energy blanket, costing you thousands of dollars a year. If you even think you may have a problem, call Insulation Northwest today, and we will come to your home as soon as tomorrow and perform a free, no-obligation inspection to determine what the problem is. This inspection normally costs $199, but it's yours free just for calling today. If we discover any problem with rodents in your home, we can get them out and keep them out and restore your home's protective insulation blanket back to brand new condition. Let Insulation Northwest give peace and comfort back to you and your family and save you thousands of dollars in energy savings. Call Insulation Northwest today, the real insulation company.
InsulationNorthwest.com. What if you could have the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi? And get this, what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? During the Xfinity Summer Savings Event, now through June 15th, new customers can get our best price on gig Wi-Fi, just $50 a month for 5 years. And get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. Plus, add one line of Xfinity Mobile Select and you can save an average of $60 a month over Verizon and AT&T. You can even try it free for a year. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities during the Xfinity Summer Savings Event. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Savings based on 1 gig internet and 1 mobile select line compared to similar Verizon and AT&T plans over 5 years. After 12 months, regular rates apply to mobile select. Xfinity internet required. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable.
When Dennis suggested retirement planning to his wife, Linda, she had the same reaction lots of people do.
Do we really need it?
Then they attended a free seminar with elder law attorney Rajiv Nagayich at LifePoint Law.
He asked me, what do you want? And he truly listened. And at the end of it, it was like, we need to do this.
There are many people on the radio that speak about many things. And when we got here and actually worked with the team that Rajiv has put together, it turns out that it is not just talk, it is action.
And in the worst case?
I said to him, if something happens to Dennis, what would I do exactly? And he said, you pick up the phone and you call Rajiv or you call me. And that right there was like peace of mind.
Register for a free LifePoint Law retirement planning seminar in Tacoma on June 4th, Mukilteo June 6th, Lacey June 9th, or Bellevue June 13th, 6:30 p.m. Space is limited. Sign up at lifepointlaw.com. That's lifepointlaw.com.
Why pay retail? Save big with the largest carpet and hardwood flooring selection at Carpet Liquidators. 7 locations. We've got you covered at Carpet Liquidators.
Why pay retail? Carpet Liquidators.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon, I'm Jillian Raftery. Ukraine may be turning the tide in the war against Russia. ABC News contributor Mick Mulroy used to work for the Department of Defense.
We're seeing Ukraine hold Russian spring offensive essentially stagnant. And in some cases, Ukraine's even taking back territory. Ukraine keeps advancing its ability to strike long range inside Russia and inside Crimea, hitting very significant logistics targets.
He says Russia has been increasingly targeting civilians, and that's at least part of what's galvanizing offensives. Back in the U.S., an appeals court in Colorado overturned the convictions of 2 paramedics in the death of Elijah McClain. They were accused of giving McClain a fatal dose of ketamine as a way to sedate him during a confrontation back in 2019. A crowd of advocates were there for his family.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest until the killing of a black man, black mother's son, is the same as the killing of a white man, white mother's son.
McClain, who was black, was unarmed during that encounter. Washington's Attorney General has steered more state resources towards criminal cases.
Small jurisdictions that don't have the people power, the expertise. We're doing a lot of cases that are multi-jurisdictional. So if folks are stealing stuff from one Home Depot and then they go up I-5 and they steal more stuff and then they sell it online, we're taking some of those cases at a higher level than we have before.
Attorney General Nick Brown spoke to the Gian Ursula Show on KIRO News Radio earlier today. A thank you to veterans and first responders who love soccer. Bank of America, FIFA, and nonprofit VetTix are teaming up to provide $2.25 million worth of World Cup tickets. Eligible participants can sign up for free at vettix.org or firsttix.org. If you're heading through Seattle this weekend, you're going to want to find another way besides I-5. Northbound I-5 is shutting down from I-90 all the way to Northeast 45th Street from midnight Friday to 5 a.m. Monday. Now we're going to check in with today's traffic. Lori has your KIRO News Radio real-time traffic.
Seattle to Federal Way is a little slow, just about a minute delay at 22 minutes. Linwood to Bellevue, a 19-minute drive, and Seattle to Linwood is 22 minutes. If you're heading from Bellevue to Everett, northbound I-405, you've got a 3-minute slowdown, and into Issaquah from Bellevue, expect now only a 3-minute delay, so definitely getting a little better. 520, you're still going to see a pretty big slowdown until you get to the bridge deck. It's about a minute delay into Bellevue from Seattle, and then 2 minutes slow down if you take I-90. And remember, there is a high wind warning on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. I'm Lori, KIRO Real-Time Traffic.
Stormy evening ahead for us. Showers, high of 64, and overnight lows in just the mid-40s for the next few days. More showers and potential thunderstorms on Saturday. It's 63 degrees right now in downtown Seattle. I'm Jillian Raftery for KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News.
All right, welcome back to the show. Flying solo today. Spike is out. So it just gives me a lot of chance to talk at you guys. And right now I want to talk about data centers. I saw this piece in the Seattle Times, and I found it really fascinating. There's this company, this Texas real estate firm, who has applied to build a new data center in this building in Seattle. Now, it's funny because the company's called Digital Reality. They're the ones behind the project. They actually put out a statement where they said, this is not a, quote, AI data center, but instead it's a, quote, highly connected, network-dense facility. And will there be some, business supportive service use for co-location data center on site? Yes, but it's not an AI data center because data center has become this nasty word. I looked this up. If you look up data centers online, it's got like a 70% negative, whatever it would be. It polls in the 70% negative from anybody you ask, from a group of people you ask. 70% go, oh man, data centers, that's horrible. I don't want data centers. They're big and they're noisy and they're going to drive up the cost of my electricity and they're going to eat all the water and then I'm not going to be able to drink anything. And my energy is going to be crazy expensive. All of this fear-mongering that's happening around data centers. Now, in this case, this digital, what is this again? Digital Reality, this one they're applying for in Seattle. It would be 380,000 square feet. It would include 38 underground parking spots in I believe it's a 6-story building. What's interesting is this company already has another one of these that they operate in Seattle in a 34-story, 400,000 square foot data center in the Weston building. So they already operate locally a data center that's even larger than the one they're trying to build. But still, Seattle City Council recently had a land use and sustainability committee meeting, and they voted to advance this 1-year ban on large-scale data centers in Seattle until they can do a little more, research on what happens when you put big data centers in. I don't know if this one would qualify as a large data center, even though it sounds big to you and me. I mean, the really big ones that we're talking about are like massive. But this is, I don't believe this would be considered a very large one. But listen to this. The city got 54,000 messages of intense public alarm about the potential data center. This is according to Katie Wilson's office, so take it with a grain of salt. Clearly, they don't like data centers. And so I was diving into this a little bit, and I was listening to all these interviews about it. There's a guy whose name is Mark Andreessen, who I was listening to talk about it recently on the Joe Rogan show. He's like a old internet guy. I think he started Netscape and some other stuff. Anyway, he's a big Silicon Valley guy, billionaire. There's another guy named Mr. Wonderful. His name is Kevin O'Leary, but you know him from Shark Tank as Mr. Wonderful. He's investing in an AI data center, or more than one, a big, massive one in Utah. And they're constantly trying to figure out how to deal with the misinformation that's put out about them. And again, these are all people who are interested in data centers, so take that with a grain of salt too. But he was on NBC, Mr. Wonderful was on NBC, and he was confronted about some of the downsides of a data center. And clearly they don't want him in Seattle. In a place like Utah, where you just have land as far as the eye can see and not a human in sight, which is where Mr. Wonderful is talking about building his, he explained some of the misinformation. And then in just a second, I want to compare this to something else that I'm worried about happening, which is that data centers are feeling, to me, like they're kind of becoming the new nuclear reactor, the nuclear power plant, which up until the late 1970s, America was on track to have nuclear power. And if they had nuclear power, I've done some deep diving on some of the numbers, crazy that we would have, how little power would cost if we were using nuclear power at the rate we would be using it now if that investment and that building had continued. But something happened in 1979, a very specific thing. Now, many of you are probably thinking 3 Mile Island, the 3 Mile Island meltdown. That's part of it. But there is a piece of pop culture that played into that purely by coincidence, like a crazy, crazy coincidence that we're going to get into here in just a second, which completely soured America's views on nuclear power. Now, there are places in the other parts of the world, like France, 70% of their power comes from nuclear. It's safe. They do it in lots of places. Bill Gates, who's a smart guy on a lot of things, a couple things I think he's really dumb on, but a lot of things he's really smart on. He has a company who's trying to build new nuclear power plants that are safe and modern and not the stuff that we're talking about from like the 1960s and 70s that ended up having problems. But even those, the problems that you think about nuclear power come from pop culture and not necessarily reality, which is really wild. So we'll get into that in just a second. But as it compares to data centers, what happens if we take the road not taken? What would that look like if we don't end up doing data centers? Because they are being built the world over. And what happens if in the United States or in this case, Seattle or in Washington, if they become politically a bad thing, so people don't build them? They become toxic, like politically toxic, and then they don't build them, and then you fall behind on all the very positive things that data centers can bring to a local community, of which I can get into in just a second. But listen to this. Let's start with Mr. Wonderful. He's on NBC. He's talking about this data center that he wants to build out on the 40,000 acres of land that he owns in Utah. And he's dealing with some of the questions that he refers to as misinformation. Listen to this.
I want to start out with a simple question. Why does the country need a data center this big, 10,000 acres? That would consume more electricity than the entire state uses in a year. Explain this to my viewers.
So there's a lot of misinformation, including that you just pointed out, that's been put out about this project. First of all, the parcel's 40,000 acres, of which maybe we'll use 9,000 over 10 years. That's lie number one. Misinformation number two is that we're going to use so much electricity that all the rates are going to go up in Utah. We're not using any electricity from Utah. We're building our own power plant off the Rose Pipeline. In fact, giving back power to the people in Utah so that their rates stay stable and don't increase. Actually, this will help that. And the third, and I think of grave concern, you talked about the environment. By the way, I'm a graduate in environmental studies, so I understand the issues. But about the water level in the Great Salt Lake, we're not going to be touching water in the Great Salt Lake. We're a long way from that, and we're not using any of that. And the idea that we're using millions and millions of gallons of water, also a falsehood. But put out by, well, I'm starting to learn who put it out. But the fact is, a lot of the turbines today are much different than they were 20 years ago. They're air cooled. So the idea that all the water is going to be used this way, and the water used to cool chips is like your car now, a radiator. It's self-contained.
Yeah, this loop basically that it goes through. So it goes through a loop, it cools the reactor, and then goes out. You can, just like a radiator, it cools the water back down, then it's used again. It's fascinating stuff. In just a few minutes, when we get back from the other side of the commercial break here, I would like to compare this to what happened with nuclear reactors, which was a technology that America was very much at the forefront of in the 1960s and 70s. And then it became politically toxic. And then they did not build one for like 20-something years. No permits were passed. Nobody could invest in them. Up until 1979, they were just humming. Something happened in 1979, and it was not because of a massive fallout from a disaster. It was because a movie got really, really popular at the box office. At least that's my assessment. I'm gonna play you some of the trailer of this movie. The timing of these events is crazy too, because if one had not happened, if this movie had not come out 12 days before 3 Mile Island, we might be paying half what we're paying right now for power. And it is way cleaner for the environment, like by orders of magnitude. We'll get into all that when we come back. It's very interesting. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KIRO Newsradio is honored to be the recipient of 7 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, including Overall Excellence and Excellence in Writing.
We can't let hatred become the air we breathe. It poisons us all. Our strength is in unity.
We thank you who listen, stream, and watch every day. The driving force that pushes us to be the Northwest's trusted news source. KIRO Newsradio, 97.3 FM.
From the FIFA World Cup to competitive business environments, grand ambitions lead to game-changing achievements. At Bank of America, we're there to support businesses at every step, providing insights and expertise to help you gain an edge.
He shoots, he scores!
What would you like the power to do? Explore winning business solutions at BofA.com/gamechangers. Bank of America, official bank of the FIFA World Cup 2026.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
John Curley here. This baseball season, step up to the plate and get the price of a new heating and cooling system in just 60 seconds on your phone with no pressure. Don't wait. Call the comfort people. HomeComfortAlliance.com. That's HomeComfortAlliance.com.
Do you get sinus infections, congestion, sinus pressure and pain, sinus headaches? You've gone to the doctor. You visit urgent care over and over again. And it's always the same thing, right? Oh, I know. Let's try antibiotics and some nasal sprays. But they just keep coming back. You may suffer with chronic sinus infections. The good news? Relief is possible. How? A minimally invasive procedure called the Sinusoft procedure, available only at the Modern Nose Clinic. Imagine a procedure so delicate there are no narcotics. Less cutting means less bleeding, so no packing, and no operating room. The Sinusoft procedure is designed for the clinic. If you suffer with chronic sinus infections, facial pain, pressure, and congestion, find out if the Sinusoft procedure, available only at the Modern Nose Clinic, is the solution for you. Call and set an appointment today. 206-388-2770. 206-388-2770. That's 206-388-2770.
Guys, tired all the time? Gaining weight? Low drive? These aren't just signs of aging. They could be low testosterone or other underlying issues. This June, for Men's Health Month, Revive Men's Health in Seattle is offering a free comprehensive wellness panel, a $400 value. It checks your testosterone, blood sugar, cholesterol, kidney, liver, thyroid, and heart health. No guessing, just answers. Over 100,000 men have trusted Revive to get real results. More energy, better sleep, improved mood, and confidence that shows. If something feels off, don't wait. Take control and protect your long-term health by knowing your numbers. This offer ends June 30th. Schedule your free comprehensive wellness panel today. Call 206-529-1111. That's 206-529-1111. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com. Feel better, live stronger. Start now.
Caregiving isn't just hard work, it's heart work. Every day, caregivers bring dignity, kindness, and comfort to those who need it most. Right now, Washington needs more caring hearts. Your kindness, your patience, your heart are needed more than ever. Caregiver Careers Washington will guide you every step of the way. Our friendly navigators help you find training, certification, and employment at no cost to you. Start your heart work today at caregivercareerswa.com. That's caregivercareerswa.com.
Sponsored by DSHS and aired by the WSAB in this station.
There is nothing so special as June in a Northwest garden. Hi, I'm Gina, a designer and sign painter here at Sky Nursery, and I have been a huge gardener since my now adult kids were shorter than my lavender. When I get home from work this time of year, the first thing I do is head straight out into the garden to see how everything is growing and enjoy the spring golden hour. I'm in love with this year's zinnias and lavender, and the rose I added this February is just about to bloom. So I've been spoiling it with a little extra organic fertilizer. And as any gardener does, I'm also trying everything I can to make space for just a few more flowers and veggies. If you still have room for new plants in your life, June is a great time to get them in the ground before the summer heat. Come into Sky and explore the colorful tapestry of trees and shrubs, summer veggies and herbs, fountains, containers, hanging baskets, and more. Sky Nursery, the gardener's garden store since 1953. Visit skynursery.com for free seasonal garden advice and summer events. Happy gardening.
Compassion, communication, results. That's Pendergast Law Personal Injury Lawyers. Go to pendergastlaw.com. That's pendergastlaw.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. This all kicked off last segment. We were talking about a data center. There's an application for a data center in Seattle. There's already 30 in Seattle, so any fear-mongering that data centers are the end of the world is unfounded, I would say. There's a bunch of reasons why data centers people could be cautious about them, and then there's another side of it where you go, hey, you know what? They're actually tons of tax revenue for local communities. Many of the new ones, if not all, will be providing their own energy sources, so you don't have to worry about electricity bills raising. as a result. There's a lot of reasons to think that they're actually not a bad thing. I'm comparing them to nuclear power, and I didn't know any of this when I know that we don't invest in nuclear power. I know that when I was a kid and we'd go on road trips, there was these big nuclear, what were these things? I'm trying to find the name of them. The Whoops debacle. Do you guys remember the Whoops debacle? This massive project. Washington State wanted to be a leader in nuclear reactors, and they started this project in the 1970s. By 1983, it had completely run out of money, and the public confidence in the project was just a nothing, and the feelings about nuclear power had completely changed. And now you can, and I think a couple of these were actually built. Those big silos-looking things, they're massive, and those have since been converted into, I think it's a business park now. And I think there's an acoustic sound thing in one of the reactors that's supposed to be very quiet, and they can test quiet or something. Anyway, the point of all this is what happened, because if we had nuclear power today, I did some deep dive on this. We were, as Americans, we were humming along on nuclear power. In the 1960s and 70s, between 67 and 77, 92 reactors were given operating permits. And then in the late 1970s, it just dried up, completely stopped. Nobody could get a new permit to build anything until the mid-2000s. It finally started to become viable again. Now, the technology has grown immensely. They've continued this around the rest of the world. Places like France, I mentioned last break, they have a lot of nuclear power. 70% of their power comes from nuclear power. And so what would have happened in our country if we had gone down this road? This is now one of those questions, like a road that wasn't taken, a different reality. If we had gone down that road and actually kept building and not been scared away by the 3 Mile Island disaster, which was it a disaster or was it just crazy bad timing? Nobody died. They did have a problem. Everything operated after the problem was identified as it should have. And scientists basically said any radiation that would have gotten out would have been, equivalent to somebody getting an X-ray. And now it's not affecting anybody. But we stopped building power plants after that. So 3 Mile Island happened in 1979, but something else happened in 1979 too. 12 days before 3 Mile Island, and this is crazy, and I didn't even know this until I was researching this segment. Do you guys remember, or have you heard of a movie called The China Syndrome? So The China Syndrome was based on a book of the same name in the 1970s. Very, very popular. It then gets made into a movie starring Michael Douglas, who was at the height of his long-haired fame at the time. Actually, the 80s were good for Douglas too, and the 90s, so whatever. He was very popular. Jane Fonda was also in the movie. And I have never seen the movie. I was unaware of it until I was watching the trailer this morning. And it feels a lot like probably the way it was pitched and sold is in the wake of All the President's Men, which is investigative journalist, getting under, figuring out what happened, with the Nixon White House and, revealing all of this stuff. They kind of did the same thing in the China Syndrome. I'm going to play you a little bit of the trailer. This was a smash hit, and this was in 1979. This is 12 days. This came out 12 days before the 3 Mile Island incident. And just think about what this would have done to the public, as they were all queued up to hate nuclear power because of this movie, which was a massive hit. And then 3 Mile Island happens, and then everybody just goes, no nuclear power.
The China Syndrome. It's about people who lie, and people faced with the agony of telling the truth. People like Kimberly Wells, a television reporter paid to smile, not to think.
A few words about a veterinarian who makes house calls on sick fish. Or is it aquarium calls?
Richard Adams, a cameraman who never learned how to play by the rules.
Wait till you get in that other room, get that radiation all over that cute little body.
Jack Goodell, an engineer who knows too much to tell the truth.
In anything that man ever does, there's some element of risk, right? Well, that's why we have what we call defense in depth.
That's Jack Lemmon. Great cast, by the way.
Cares too much to lie.
No accident.
It will start with a tremor in a nuclear power plant. Where it will end will depend on 3 people. The China Syndrome. The harder they try, the more resistance they meet. The closer they get, the more threatening it becomes. The China Syndrome. Today, only a handful of people know what it really means. And they're scared. Soon, you will know.
Isn't that a great ad?
The China Syndrome.
How crazy is it that happened 12 days? It was like the #1 movie at the box office 12 days before 3 Mile Island. Those two things work together to shut down nuclear power. Who knows what the power situation might have looked like in the U.S. You're paying half of basically what you would if we had continued building. All right, don't let it happen with data centers, folks. All right, we got a lot more coming up. Jim Walsh is going to join me in studio next. Don't miss it. It's going to be great. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KIRO News Radio, winner of 7 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards. Breaking news coverage, best newscast, excellence in writing, investigative reporting, sports reporting, hard news. Capped with a prestigious prize for overall excellence. And we thank you, our audience across the Pacific Northwest. You are the reason we strive to be the Northwest's trusted news source. KIRO News Radio, 97.3 FM.
Progressive's Home Quote Explorer helps you easily find and buy the right coverage for you. It's everything you've always wanted. Well, I mean, as far as a website that lets you shop, quote, and buy insurance in one place. But hey, maybe that is everything you've always wanted. Yeah, people have different types of dreams. And if all you've ever been searching for is a website that helps you choose home insurance rates and coverage, boy, do we have great news about Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
Big Trees is Washington's premier tree sales and transplant company. Looking for a big selection of big trees? Visit Big Trees in Snohomish or BigTreeSupply.com.
Beauty, privacy, instantly.
Jason Rantz here. If your water heater is getting older, leaking, or running out of hot water, CM Heating has an affordable solution. Get a new gas or electric water heater installed starting at just $44.99 a month. With CM Heating's Comfort as a Service program, you'll get lifetime repairs and maintenance at no extra charge. Parts and labor covered for life. Plus, same-day installation is available in many cases. Schedule your free estimate today at cmheating.com.
License number CMHEAHL 750LP.
You could sleep through the night without thinking twice. You could take a seat in the middle of the theater. You could drive without worry of where the next restroom is. You used to say yes, and somewhere along the way, you stopped. Not because of one big moment, because of 100 small ones. A little more urgency, one more trip to the bathroom at 2 a.m., one more mental note about where the restroom is. It happened slowly enough that it just became you. But it's not you. It's enlarged prostate, and there's a treatment called aquablation therapy, the only ultrasound-guided robotic-assisted therapy for enlarged prostate. Find an aquablation therapist near you. Call Aquablation Seattle at 206-666-2466, 206-666-2466. That's 206-666-2466. All surgical treatments carry risks, and results may vary. Side effects may include urinary symptoms, mild pain, ejaculatory dysfunction, or infection. In rare cases, complications to the urethra and rectum may occur. Aquablation therapy may not be right for everyone. Talk to your urologist to learn more. Visit aquablationseattle.com.
Let's talk about your hair. Well, maybe after we talk about my hair. I've got great hair, as you know, and it's because of Advanced Hair. Yep, Advanced Hair Restoration. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results that I can attest to. Guys, it's not magic, but it's close to it. They put hair where you need it most, and bam, it grows. It's actual science. Advanced Hair has top-rated physicians, modern technology, and best of all, you get your very own natural hair that begins to regrow the very next day. It's even guaranteed to grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now at 425-449-8185. Mention Curly to qualify for $250 off and $250 free hair crafts. It's a limited time offer. Advanced Hair, the winner of the 425 Business of the Year, and the team that gave me my hair back. More importantly, they'll do the same for you, guaranteed. 425-449-8185 or advancedhair.com.
Giving your liver a spring cleaning is easy with Active Liver. From New Nordic. Search for Active Liver by New Nordic on Amazon, CVS, Wegmans, or GNC.
Your best source for local news. KIRO Newsradio, KIRO FM and HD1, Tacoma, Seattle, Northwest News.
ABC News, I'm Mike Tabusky. President Trump says the Department of National Intelligence is too big and is pushing for incoming acting director Bill Pulte to downsize the organization in charge of the nation's spy agencies. Oral arguments today in the case of the White House ballroom. A lower court had ordered construction to stop following a lawsuit from preservationists. Now the president's lawyers are asking an appeals court to throw out that move. ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
One of the judges, Patricia Millett, who's an Obama appointee, really pressed the Justice Department on how far the president can go, whether the president could tear down the White House or maybe even if he wanted to, take down the Statue of Liberty, and whether anyone could sue to stop him. And the answer from the government's lawyer was, quote, "I think that's right."
Brendan Banfield has been sentenced to life in prison after being convicted earlier this year for murdering his wife Christine and Joseph Ryan. The man Banfield wanted to take the fall for his wife's murder. This is ABC News. A California judge ruled a few weeks ago that notorious Cars for Kids ad had to stop airing, but now it's back, at least for the time being, with a new court order that is allowing the ad to run. ABC's Alex Stone has details.
This went back to a Southern California man who said he donated a vehicle after he heard the ad on the radio and thought the money was going to be going to needy children. But he then learned, and this was part of his lawsuit, that the money was actually going to Orthodox Jewish programs in New York and New Jersey, and the money was going to Israel. That the money was being used to send teenagers to Israel and for a $16 million building there that the organization has.
Measles cases in the United States have surpassed 2,000 for the second year in a row, according to new data from the CDC. This November, the Pan American Health Organization will evaluate whether the U.S. has lost its elimination status for that illness. I'm Mike Tabusky, ABC News.
King County's Regional Homeless Agency is fighting for its future. We'll tell you all about that in just a moment. But first, Lori has your KIRO News Radio real-time traffic.
South Center to Alderwood now on I-5 is a 54-minute drive that's taking you about 6 minutes longer than usual. 46 minutes if you are on 405. From Alderwood to South Center, so we're going to reverse it now. I-5 is 36 minutes, and 405 will take you 37 minutes. Still seeing a pretty big slowdown on 520 eastbound approaching the bridge. Seattle to Bellevue. On 520, you're going to see a minute delay, and I-90 just a 2-minute slowdown. High wind warning on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. I'm Lori, KIRO Real-Time Traffic.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM, Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon, I'm Jillian Raftery. January has arrived as thunderstorms take aim at the Puget Sound region today and tomorrow. National Weather Service meteorologist Matthew Cullen says Saturday looks to be the bigger threat.
Maybe a 30 to 35% chance, so a much higher chance for seeing some thunderstorms around the area. And it's actually going to be Snohomish County southward tomorrow, so kind of through Seattle down through the South Sound.
You can find more on mynorthwest.com. 2 cars hit a pedestrian along I-5 South near Mercer Street last Sunday morning just before 1 a.m. One person died. Only one of the drivers stopped. A picture of the other car is up on mynorthwest.com, and the State Patrol is looking for help finding it. The federal agency leading the most in-depth investigation into the Longview implosion is at risk of losing all of its funding. Here's KIRO 7 TV's Brandon Thompson with more on that.
With more than 3 decades of workplace hazard experience, including fatality assessments with L&I, University of Washington professor Marty Cohen says the Chemical Safety Board, or CSB, is one of a kind.
In order for us to be able to prevent similar incidents, we may have to learn more about what happened than just what regulations were violated.
In its budget request to Congress, the White House wants to eliminate all funding for CSB in 2027, saying, quote, CSB duplicates more than adequate capabilities in the Environmental Protection Agency.
A young organization handling huge amounts of money led to fiscal mismanagement at the troubled King County Regional Homeless Authority. That's what the agency's chief executive, Kelly Kinnison, tells a city council committee.
The core of many of these issues is the maturity of the organization and the amount of money that was handled by the organization at a really nascent time.
KCRHA is fighting for its survival after an audit revealed organizational weaknesses and millions of dollars unaccounted for. Seattle's waterfront just got a major upgrade. A mile-and-a-half stretch of Myrtle Edwards and Centennial Parks reopened yesterday after a $56 million renovation funded entirely by private donors, according to the Seattle Times. The project replaces lawns with native meadows, widens walking paths, and restores public art. Two rebuilt beaches now offer easier access to Puget Sound, with sandy slopes replacing rocky barriers. Now let's get a check at your full forecast. Like I said, afternoon showers leading to potential thunderstorms tonight and tomorrow. We are going to dry out a little bit more by Sunday, but then rain at times comes back in the forecast by Monday. 62 degrees right now in downtown Seattle. I'm Jillian Raftery for KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news, serving Western Washington and the world with a KIRO Newsradio app. Always streaming live on your smart speakers. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News.
And now, it's time for the Jake and Spike Show on KIRO News Radio. With your hosts, Jake Skorheim and Spike O'Neill.
Welcome back to the show. 1 hour down. We have 2 hours to go, and we are very, very fortunate in this hour. I've been flying solo today so far, but not anymore. Right now, in studio with me for the first time in person. We've had a lot on the screen, but just the first time in person. Representative Jim Walsh joins us now. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's good to be here. I will try to be Spike, but I don't know if
Please don't do that.
I don't know how well I can play his role, but I'll try.
He's uniquely talented in many ways, so I will not ask you to do that. All right, we got a lot of stuff to get to. Let's get some more serious stuff out of the way first.
Sure.
You, in your capacity as a representative in our state, you represent Longview, which obviously
Correct.
Because of the pulp and paper mill disaster that happened down there and the implosion. What can you tell us? What's the latest on that?
A lot going on, obviously. The recovery process, rescue and recovery process, was led by a couple of the fire departments down there, the City of Longview's fire department, and then there's a regional fire district, Cowlitz 2, and they were literally the first responders.
Gotcha.
They were working with federal EPA on what they called the recovery effort after all the bodies had been discovered and recovered and identified, and now they're in kind of a transition phase. The recovery effort is completing. They're still investigating to find out exactly what caused the structure that held this giant tank.
Yeah, 900,000 gallons.
900,000 gallons of a chemical compound they call white liquor, which is used in paper making. It basically softens wood pulp up so that it can be turned into paper, rolled into paper. It's a caustic chemical. People say it's like acid. It's really the opposite. It's a base, and nevertheless caustic.
Very dangerous.
If it touches you,
Yeah.
it doesn't aerosolize. It doesn't get in the air. But if it touches your skin, if you ingest it, very bad. So that gigantic tank, which is like the size of a mid-rise office building, it's a massive structure, failed. Something in the structure holding it in place failed, and
if you
collapsed.
look at the pictures, I've seen the pictures of this. It just looks like it just flattened.
Like tilted, right? Part of it collapsed and it just pancaked. And so they're still investigating structurally what happened. And I caution people about against jumping too far or too fast here. There were people saying maybe a vehicle hit it, or there are people saying that there was obvious wear and tear. Well, we don't know what it was. So that investigation is still going on. There is a bit of a transition going on. So the fire departments, who were literally the first responders on site, running things initially, now are basically handing over the lead to state agencies. The federal EPA was there. They have a special unit trained and equipped to deal with caustic spills. So they're kind of finishing their piece of it, handing over the project now to state agencies, largely labor and industry, L&I, which handles workplace safety and workplace accidents. To some degree, the State Department of Ecology will also be involved. And the investigation continues. We're waiting to hear what the experts say happened structurally. And again, I just want to caution people from jumping to too fast conclusions about it. I know there's a lot of scuttlebutt on social media saying maybe this was like sabotage or eco-terrorism or something. There's no evidence of that.
Yeah. I saw other stories digging into the company's past. Were they investing enough in safety? Those are all questions that will be figured out as time goes.
Correct.
But obviously it's still very
no final report yet. Let the process finish. The main thing was getting the families, the survivors of the people who were killed, getting them closure. I mean, getting them an answer. What happened? Certainty that their loved one, their husband, their father, was identified, and at least they can begin the grieving and closure process on that. And there'll be a lot to say going down the road about taking care of those people. There's still a couple of good, if you want to help, there are a couple of good operations being run by the local Pulp and Paper Workers Union, the AWPPW, and the local fire department is involved in orchestrating that. So there's ways to get online and help if you want, but at this point, let's let the process play out and get answers on why the structure failed.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, we'll keep folks up to date on that as we know more. All right, I want to transition over to something else. You and Governor Ferguson were actually working together on this to make sure that community is well served. Another area where we can well serve the entire community of Washington State, which I think would be very, very valuable, would be if Governor Ferguson answers his own challenge for the two of you to have some serious back and forth discussions. A couple days ago, I think maybe it was a week ago or so, I think it was last weekend, Governor Ferguson got onto social media and he sent off a post about whether or not you had the guts to run against him for governor in 28. And people immediately responded with a lot of ideas and whether or not they thought you'd be successful at that. I think you would be very successful at that. But one of the things that people would like to see is to not wait until 28 and not wait till the official election season. Why not have you guys who have very different ideas about how the state is run, specifically as it relates to this millionaire's tax or income tax, start with that, have some serious civic conversations that people care about, and let folks hear both sides of things. And almost immediately you respond, you're like, yeah, this is a great idea. We should be having these conversations. What do you want to say about that? Has Governor Ferguson answered kind of his own challenge for the two of you to, go at it?
Not really. I think it is a great opportunity, Jake. We could do, I call them Lincoln Douglas style debates, old school debate, conversation, if you will, on topics that affect people's lives. And it's a chance not for one of these kind of quickie 90-minute in and out things, but detailed stuff where maybe we would do a series of exchanges, debates, conversations, discussions, each on a topic. One would be on this new tax proposal. One might be on the pension situation, the pension raid that happened recently, to the cops and firefighters' pension. We could certainly do schools. I mean, K-12 school performance is falling in this state. And the funding of K-12 schools, which doesn't always go arm in arm with the performance of schools. We could do safety. We just had we've had a tough couple of weeks in my district. We just had the story break recently of the little boy, Aiden Bevins in Aberdeen, also part of my district, who the father was arrested for the boy's death. He was a 4-year-old boy.
It's a horrible story.
And the parents were troubled. They were in jail, out of jail. They'd had some drug issues. They'd had various issues. And it's the echo of another story we know, the Oakley Carlson case, where these young kids, 3-4 years old, are kind of shuttled between foster care and their biological parents. And we have this state law called the Keeping Families Together Act.
Oh, yeah.
Which was well-intended, but in practice, it's been a disaster.
We had Travis Couture on the show a couple of times to talk about his efforts, which Spike and I disagree on a lot of things. We both totally agreed that in spite of the best intentions of the Keeping Families Together Act, obviously some things have fallen through the cracks. And it actually creates opportunities to just ignore kids who should be getting help immediately. And we had Couture on with us to talk about his proposals that were shot down.
Correct.
Nobody would support them, at least on the Democratic side, or very few supported them. They didn't get anywhere. And it's a disaster. I mean, you have these stories, these DCYF stories that are just completely eye-opening. You're shocked when you hear them. And that is a great topic of conversation for you in Ferguson. That area needs major reform.
It does. And we know mechanically what the problem is. This is what Couture and also another colleague of ours, Representative Josh Penner, has been involved in the same issue.
Sure.
They want reform. And some of my proposals, I ran a bill before Travis's bill that was called the Oakley-Carlson Act that was much more broad. It dealt with a lot of reform at DCYF, that's the State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which is the bureaucratic agency that oversees CPS, Child Protective Services, and other sub-agencies too.
Yeah.
But this DCYF, they're basically in charge of child welfare in our state. And the Oakley-Carlson Act would have gone after bigger, kind of more strategic, larger changes in how they operate. Travis's bill, and Penner had a version of that same bill, was much more narrowly focused, and we hoped would have a better chance of getting through. It ended up not getting through, but it probably still is the best way for a quick, immediate fix to this problem, which mechanically lies around this matter of language in state law about child welfare and when a kid needs to be taken out of a troubled home, and using legal language around the term imminent harm or imminent danger. And the way that the law describes that imminent harm, that the child is at risk of imminent harm, is so narrow that the social workers, the CPS frontline people, can't get the kid out of the home.
Their hands are tied.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter, people like beat up on CPS. It's not CPS in this case. There are other issues they got to deal with, but in this case, it's not the frontline social workers at CPS. As you say, their hands are tied by a poorly written law that too narrowly defines this imminent harm. So the social worker can see there's a problem.
Yeah.
But they can't get the
But they
kid
can't
out
do
of the
anything
house.
about it.
Right.
We had this case, and I want to move on to other stuff in just a second, but we had this case. Charlie Harger, a colleague here, does great work, Seattle's Morning News. He was highlighting the kid in the tent, who I'm sure you heard the story.
Yes. Another example.
The 9 or 10-year-old kid who around the holidays was living in a tent. I believe this was somewhere on Aurora. He was kind of vague about the location because he didn't want people going out to protect the kid. This kid who was living in a tent with his mother, who was addicted to drugs and a prostitute. His father was also apparently addicted to drugs and was in and out of the situation. The tent was filled with, I saw videos of it. It was unbelievable. You couldn't imagine a situation where a kid would live in such conditions. Mice, all the things that you would associate with
Not health. Imminent harm.
Imminent harm. It was the poster child for imminent harm, literally. And you have CPS called out, you have SPD called out. People go out there. You have neighbors who are calling all the time saying, guys, please do something. We'll take this kid into our own house.
Exactly.
But they can't because their hands are tied legally. They're not allowed to do that. And then they go out there and SPD or CPS goes, yeah, obviously, if this was our own child, we would want him not in this situation. We can't do anything for this kid. According to the law, he's fine. We're going to keep him where he's at. That is crazy. And it's so obvious that needs to be changed. And, hopefully a conversation between you and Ferguson on something like that maybe could lead to a larger conversation with everybody that needs to be there about actually getting something like that passed through and made into law. Let's shift over. Speaking of law, the millionaire's tax. This, I think, do you think this would be the main issue when people approach you and want to talk about politics, which I'm sure is all the time? When they approach you, what's the number one issue that they're talking to you about?
Well, lately it's been the state income tax, what the governor calls the millionaire tax. Also taxes in general. I would say outside of the last couple of months since this state income tax proposal passed, before that, it was property taxes. So it's either property taxes or more recently now this state income tax. And I refuse to call it a millionaire's tax because it is a state income tax. So it was Senate Bill 6346 is the number. I know whenever I do something like this, Jake, someone always calls or texts me after, you should say the bill number, because we want to look at it. So, okay, the state income tax was Senate Bill 6346, 109 pages long. So a long bill for Olympia. We don't do generally, we don't do the omnibus bills that they do in D.C.
Yeah, they're 1,400
Ours
pages.
have to be tighter. Now, the budgets are an exception to that, but generally our bills have to be tighter. So 109 pages is long for a bill.
For comparison, what's a general bill?
Oh, they'll have 5-6 pages long.
Oh, okay.
I mean, some will be longer, but generally bills are fairly short in Olympia.
10 times, this is 10 times longer than the average bill.
And it's really like a Frankenstein monster. When they were putting it together, and the state senator, Jamie Peterson, was the main author of this Frankenstein monster bill.
We had him on, and he told us that there was no issues and nobody would leave the state.
Oh, sure. No, none of problems. It's lovely. Everything's wonderful. Rainbows and unicorns. That's right. Everything's beautiful.
Perfect.
It's a terribly written bill. They had to take parts of the federal Internal Revenue Code, so the federal law on income tax, and incorporate it into this state law. But then parts of that don't work with our state law, so it's a mess. And we can go into some of that. But anyway, 109 pages long, a lot of it having to do with the definition of what is income, poorly written. There's a use of the term AGI, adjusted gross income. Took the worst elements of the federal law, added some extra. It's a mess. Anyway, hundreds and hundreds of sections within 109 pages in this bill. If you follow the numbering, it ends up with 1,208, but it's not quite section for section. It doesn't flow like that, but hundreds of sections within 109 pages. One paragraph about the household exemption on the state income tax. And it's section 314, if you want to go look it up, about 2 sentences long, not very short, saying that there'll be $1 million per household.
So $500,000 per person if you're both hired and
couple. Or if
couple.
you're a polyamorous family, maybe $250,000.
Yeah. I guess it could be any number there. It could be 50,000 apiece.
Anyway, that's exemption. So those households are exempted from the 9.9% state income tax. 2 sentences long, maybe not that. Very short section. It is not structurally tied to any other part of the bill. A lot of the parts that are grabbing like the federal law and adding other language are all interconnected sections. This one's sort of by itself sitting there, section 314. In my opinion, it was designed to be deleted by a future legislature.
Yeah.
With a simple majority vote.
Which is why when he came on, he goes, well, we don't want to tie the hands of anybody in the future. You never know the revenue.
You can't, and also you can't. It's unconstitutional for a present legislature to bind a future legislature.
But they could have set a basement at $1 million, right?
Oh, absolutely. We had an amendment we proposed that would have firmed up this exemption, and it was rejected. In fact, we had a couple different ways of doing it, and they were all rejected. So it's clear to me that the long play, and actually Senator Peterson has been on the record saying he wants a state income tax on every household in the state.
Sure.
So it's a little disingenuous to pretend this is, I mean, he's said before, I want a state income tax on everyone.
Well, he's going to get it.
And so it's set up to knock out this 2-sentence section, and you got a 9.9% state income tax on everyone. The problem is, and this is what you're going to hear a bunch of, Jake, coming up in the next few months as the lawsuits proceed, is the state constitution in Article 7 says that any such tax has to be uniform on all affected people. That is flat, but the language in the Constitution is uniform.
And that's at 1%, right?
Well, the 1% is part of it, but this actually applies to any form of income or property tax.
Gotcha.
So the 1% is part of it, but forget the percentage. It has to be uniform on all people. And carving out only certain households is not uniform on all people.
Yeah.
So it's clearly unconstitutional under Article 7 of the state constitution. And by the way, for those of you nerds who are into it, read the state constitution, of course. Read Article 7. Because I think Article 7 is one of the reasons I like the Washington state constitution better even than the federal. Article 7 is not just about an income tax. It's about all taxation. It's the general taxation section of the Constitution. And it is crystal clear, well written, about how whatever taxes exist in Washington, they have to be fair. They have to be flat. They have to be uniform.
Who would argue against fair? I mean, honestly, it boggles my mind. This is exactly the kind of conversation that should be happening between you and Ferguson. We've run out of time. Do you have time for a few more minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Representative Jim Walsh, he's going to stick around for a couple more minutes. He's live in studio. We will be right back on the other side of this break. Stick around.
This hour is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.
KIRO News Radio, winner of 7 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, including overall excellence and investigative reporting.
Just 29 hours later, Joshua Headley sent an unsolicited email to me writing, "I understand there may be a news story coming out."
Thank you who listen, stream, and watch every day. The driving force that pushes us to be the Northwest trusted news source. KIRO News Radio, 97.3 FM.
This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC that hums, cleaning supplies that keep surfaces sparkling. That's why she counts on Grainger. With easy reordering online and 24/7 support, Grainger helps her keep the products she needs on hand. So shelves stay stocked and buildings stay ready. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
There is nothing so special as June in a Northwest garden. Hi, I'm Gina, a designer and sign painter here at Sky Nursery, and I have been a huge gardener since my now adult kids were shorter than my lavender. When I get home from work this time of year, the first thing I do is head straight out into the garden to see how everything is growing and enjoy the spring golden hour. I'm in love with this year's zinnias and lavender, and the rose I added this February is just about to bloom. So I've been spoiling it with a little extra organic fertilizer. And as any gardener does, I'm also trying everything I can to make space for just a few more flowers and veggies. If you still have room for new plants in your life, June is a great time to get them in the ground before the summer heat. Come into Sky and explore the colorful tapestry of trees and shrubs, summer veggies and herbs, fountains, containers, hanging baskets, and more. Sky Nursery, the gardener's garden store since 1953. Visit skynursery.com for free seasonal garden advice and summer events. Happy gardening.
Running a small business means juggling a lot. Your network has to handle it all. That's where a fiber-only provider falls short. You deserve a partner who gives you a greater advantage. Introducing the Total Solutions Advantage only from Comcast Business. A first-ever combination of the largest, fastest fiber-powered network, the most reliable Wi-Fi, gig speeds with equipment and security included, and a 5-year price lock. Plus, it's all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. The Total Solutions Advantage only from Comcast Business. A new standard for small business with reliability, security, and savings in one. When you add it all up, no one does business like Comcast Business.
Switch today. Get started for $60 a month for 12 months when you add an advanced solution to a qualifying internet package. Limited time offer. New customers only. Requires 300 megabits per second internet, security edge, and additional qualifying service. 1-year agreement, paperless billing, and autopay with bank account required. Taxes and fees extra. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA Fixed Broadband Experience Report, May 2025.
A rising blast, left field, grand slam, the Rosarena!
A
At T-Mobile Park, you've always got the best seat in the house. But for a truly elevated experience, you've got to be in a Mariner Suite. A suite is the perfect spot to get your game and celebration on. Birthday, promotion, engagement, company team building that actually team builds. No matter your event, we've got a suite you'll love. Group suites can fit 30 to 400 people for big-time bashes. And private suites offer just that, an upscale experience for more intimate gatherings. All Mariner Suites offer an incredible view of the ballpark, so you can't go wrong. Plus, you and your guests will enjoy premium catering, VIP parking, private Skybridge entry, and more. And season ticket members get 15% off. Reserve your suite today at mariners.com/suites.
Bases clearing, 3-run double by Josh Naylor. Holy smokes, the Mariners have the lead.
Mariners Baseball, Trident's up.
This is a special notice to all U.S. taxpayers with back taxes owed to the IRS. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, you may now be eligible for relief through current IRS initiatives for struggling taxpayers. In some cases, taxpayers may qualify to reduce as much as 99% of what they owe. You may already be experiencing wage garnishment, liens, levies, or audits and be unaware of this important information. Call Guardian Tax now to see what relief you may be eligible for at 800-404-7986. By taking action today, you may be able to stop all collections and resolve your tax problem before your tax problem gets worse. Tax experts are standing by to review your case and fight to slash your debt dramatically. Don't let your tax problem get worse and miss this time-sensitive opportunity. Check your eligibility with Guardian Tax now. Call 800-404-7986. 800-404-7986. That's 800-404-7986.
Jazz Alley invites you to experience the Brubeck Brothers Quartet, carrying forward a legendary jazz legacy with fresh energy and swing. Shows run June 2nd and 3rd. Tickets at jazzalley.com. Next up, Marcus Miller.
KIRO News Radio 97.3 FM Northwest News. Now, the latest from KIRO News Radio and mynorthwest.com.
Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Granillo. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority is answering questions after that recent audit found the agency mismanaged $13 million. CEO Kelly Kinnison tells the Seattle City Council.
The core of many of these issues is the maturity of the organization and the amount of money that was handled by the organization at a really nascent time.
Housing Authority also faces a $45 million deficit. The agency is fighting for its survival. Members of both the Seattle City and King County Councils want it shut down. Another weekend and another freeway closure to tell you about. Here's KIRO News Radio's Jillian Raftery.
Yep. I-5 northbound in Seattle is shutting down all weekend from I-90 to Northeast 45th. This is to dismantle the work zone along the Ship Canal Bridge. The freeway will be clear through the World Cup. Then state crews will close northbound lanes again the weekend of July 10th to put it all back so construction can continue. Ramps start shutting down tonight at 9 p.m., reopening Monday at 5 a.m. Jillian Raftery for KIRO News Radio.
And we turn now to the closing bell reports and a better than expected monthly jobs reports. ABC's Sherry Preston has more on the May numbers.
The U.S. economy added 172,000 jobs in May, almost double what most analysts had been predicting. That lowers the risk of a recession. However, wage gains were modest at best. Young people are finding it tough to break into the job market because so many companies, while they aren't firing people, aren't really hiring them either. And employees haven't been leaving jobs they don't like either. The number of people who quit in April dropped to the lowest level since August of 2020 when COVID was running rampant. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
If you just graduated and you're job hunting in Seattle, brace yourself. New data from payroll firm ADP ranks Seattle as the 38th best market for new grads out of 53 big metros. The Puget Sound Business Journal reports the hiring rate here ranks 43rd in the country. On Wall Street today, NASDAQ closed down 4% as stocks slid after that strong job data. Also put the rate hike on deck. Looks like the NASDAQ lost 1,100 points. S&P down 200. Dow also down big, nearly 700 points. And now to the real-time traffic desk. We check in with Lori.
And traffic is brought to you by the KIRO News Radio app. Northbound I-5 at Porter Way. Look out for a collision. It's backing you up all the way way to the T-Dome. Southbound I-5, you're going to see off and on slowing from 512 all the way to State Route 101. Northbound 405 in Renton, you're going to see a little bit of a slowdown. Both directions of I-5 slow through Seattle. Southbound slows from Northgate. And looking at the lake bridges, you're going to see a 1 minute slowdown, 520 Seattle to Bellevue, and 2 minutes 90 Seattle to Bellevue. There is something going on 520 that's got you backed up from the bridge deck all the way to I-5. US 2 slows both directions, approaching 522 in Monroe. Text app to 888-973-5476 to download the KIRO News Radio app, listen to your favorite shows, and get the latest news and updates sent straight to your phone. I'm Lori, KIRO Real-Time Traffic.
Got showers off and on today. Come tomorrow, more widespread storms with the chance for lightning, thunder, and some downpours, and also some high elevation snow. Right now, 62 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Aaron Granillo, KIRO News Radio.
Your best source for local news. You're listening to KIRO News Radio, Northwest News.
All right, welcome back to the show. Joining me live in studio for another segment here is Representative Jim Walsh. Thank you so much for sticking around and making the time.
Yeah, it's interesting to be here in person. I usually Zoom in or call in.
It must be very intimidating to be around so much star power. All right. One of the reasons I want to have you in is Governor Ferguson. Let's get this out of the way real fast. He put out this thing about you saying you don't have the guts to run against him. You responded and say we should do some debates. If we can get some debates set up, if locally here he agrees to it, would you do one with him here on the show? If we invite you, fantastic. That's great.
I think it ought to be the consistent would be the two people representing kind of two perspectives on how to do things. We should do different particular formats. Do one here. A lot of people have said, get Brandy Cruz to do one. Some people would want, like Hannah Craig, get somebody from the far left to do one. Sure. Do as many as we can.
All sides, all
places. Do it different places. I think we should do it. That's the beauty of the old Lincoln Douglas debate style. Back before the internet, before TV and radio, they went around and they did these all around. In that case, it was the state of Illinois, but they did wherever. They would just do them all over the place and let each local town kind of ask the questions they wanted and do like that.
When this first started kind of percolating, this idea, I used the movie. Have you seen the movie Seabiscuit with Jeff Bridges?
Sure.
I use that as a comparison because you're kind of the spunky Seabiscuit who's got the talent and obviously I think has the legs to actually do something special. Ferguson feels more like the War Admiral, old horse who's had it easy because he comes from a state where everything's just kind of handed to him. And War Admiral did not want to compete against Seabiscuit. He didn't want the plucky upstart to get a chance because he didn't want to be embarrassed by him. I'm wondering if that's the reason that Ferguson has not responded to any of these calls, and there's been many of them now, for you guys to actually sit down and have a conversation.
I'm sure. The governor, has what he's good at, but I want to be diplomatic. Improvisational, like off-the-cuff, unscripted exchange, probably not his strength.
I would agree with you.
He's a guy who wants to have his talking
are the same
points.
In that way.
Yeah, truly. She's probably worse than he is, but whatever. I mean, it's not their strength. I mean, their strength, what they're accustomed to, the way they've come up through their political system is here are your talking points. Here's the script. You can literally see when you do events with them, sometimes it's a piece of paper. Sometimes it's like a Kindle or some kind of iPad or something, and they've got literally
with Ferguson,
their points
it's a Zune. No, just kidding. It would be great to see like no prearranged questions, real conversation. That's the cool thing about our format here is you and I are speaking live. The audience is hearing it as it's coming out of our mouths. It would give you guys an opportunity to have a civil conversation, to challenge each other on thoughts and ideas, which oftentimes it feels like people are kind of speaking in a vacuum, which that would be the opportunity for the audience to hear both sides.
Break the bubble. Yeah.
Break the bubble, 100%. All right. Speaking of bubble, I want to get to something. We were talking about this just before you came on the show. Data centers are becoming like a scapegoat now. I think it's becoming what nuclear power was in the early 80s, in the late 70s. And what I'm worried is going to happen. But first, what's your take on data centers, and then we can chat a little bit about it.
Well, it's sort of become talk about a scripted talking point. It's become a meaningless cliche in politics. Data center. Well, I'm for data centers. I'm for whatever. I'm for business that makes sense. I'm for innovative tech. I'm for all the things that our state has traditionally been good at.
Yeah.
I think this data center has become a buzzword. I mean, each project is its own thing. Some data center projects make sense. Some maybe they don't. I understand that. But to sort of blanket statement, we don't want any data centers in our state is stupid. I mean, why? I mean, there are areas like Quincy and Central Washington that have blossomed by embracing data centers there, and their local economy is doing
Revenue
well.
Pours in.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit if you have much insight into this? I don't know if you do. I haven't asked you about this yet, but there's a big, huge complaint about if you bring a data center into a place. They used to, like Seattle City Council just passed this thing, basically like a moratorium on data centers for at least a year.
So dumb.
It seems so dumb. There's like more than 30 already in Seattle, but whatever. They're basically saying like, well, they're telling everyone that if a data center comes in, your energy bills, you're going to be paying for it with your high energy bill, when a lot of these new data centers are coming in with their own energy sources.